Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Till the Credits. My name is Sebastian. We've been gone for a couple weeks, but we're back and we're here with very special guests. Do you guys care to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, we are two-thirds of the Wojtechko Brothers. I'm John.
I'm Peter.
Yeah, and Matthew's on sabbatical.
Honey.
Nice. How good for Matthew. This week, we're going to be talking about Scream 1996. There's a new one coming out. This original one directed by Wes Craven. I know you guys said you're not familiar with that much horror. So Wes Craven's kind of like a big name.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. I know the names, and I know the films and some I'm more in the history of it, and in the filmmaking side of it. I think making these movies are really cool.
Yeah, let me put it that way. Yeah, I'm fascinated by horror and the making of horror, the actors, the directors specifically. I've watched documentaries on horror, podcasts about horror. I just don't like sitting down to watch the fruits of their labor.
Right. Yeah. I get that. I completely get that. Especially when some of these franchises are like 9-10 movies long. It gets kind of repetitive,
Well, that can be true, yeah.
Yeah.
And this movie sets out to flip that all on its head.
Yeah. So this came out in 1996. Towards the end of those years, like the 80s and 90s, they were rampant with slasher movies, like Friday the 13th, which I'm wearing a shirt of, Nightmare on Elm Street, also helmed by Wes Craven. Halloween, all those movies. They started to die down towards the end of the 90s. They were still running around, but they weren't getting money or as much money as they used to, right? So this movie set out to basically flip the genre, make it self-aware. These characters know that horror movies exist and there's rules that we should follow. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I should say, we just saw this for the first time
just yesterday.
So we are brand new into the Scream franchise,
right?
And I gotta say, I can see why people have loved this movie for the better part of for more than a quarter of a century now.
Yeah.
So,
one of the first things that I kind of thought of is, with the Scream movies also came the scary movie parody films.
Yeah.
And what was interesting to me watching this film was I was like, how do you parody a film that's already so self-aware and so satirical of the material it's based on? It already, it never does it, which I thought was great with the film, is it's still very much a horror film and a very suspenseful movie, and it never loses that, but it still has this very wink to the camera humor. It knows what's going on. It's able to revel in both of those without losing anything. But like I said, so I was like, so how do you take this thing that's winking at the camera? They're Nightmare on Elm Street, there's too many of them, and they start to suck in the end. It's the same director making this movie. He's literally in the movie dressed as Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
So it's that's so absurd in of itself, and yet still reverential to the material. I'm like, how do you make a parody of it when it's already it? This is the best to me. It's the best version of parody because it has fun with it,
right? Yeah,
while still being true to it.
It was a very deft level
of commentary and
or
just trying the same tropes, but being aware of those tropes. You know what I mean?
Because it's still suspenseful, and you still want to know who it is and all that stuff.
At one point, Sydney says she's on the call with the killer. She's like, "Oh, horror movies are dumb. The teenager should be running out the door instead of going upstairs." But then later, when the killer is in her house, she does the same thing. She runs up the stairs, and it's that sort of commentary. You're all talk. We can say that we can survive a horror movie any day, right? But when the situation comes, who's to say we will? That's interesting. That's what I find interesting about this movie.
Yeah,
and it also the whodunit aspects I think are really cool.
Yeah. I don't think I was expecting that. There was one element that I didn't really expect was this the human side of it, and wondering who it was, and even getting deeper into stuff with the Gail Weathers, the news person, and this other previous murder, and how does that work into this? It had this very honest, true mystery thriller suspense vibe.
Yeah,
also being very funny.
when I rewatched this yesterday. I got sort of like a true crime vibe to it, more so that like this is a movie inspired where a killer is inspired by horror movies, which is very much the case, right? But it feels very grounded compared to like things like Friday the 13th, things like
it wasn't a slasher. It wasn't a slasher, and I kind of thought it was,
even though it's like categorized as a slasher technically,
because there's segments
as a genre. It doesn't really feel like a slasher. It more so is like mysterious, like with hints of horror.
I thought it brings in a lot of genres, like the whodunit with the slasher,
the comedy aspects,
like
comedy,
black comedy sort of thing, satire. It all comes together with a really deft touch, really so well handled.
It was really funny. It was really funny.
It's really
and never
funny.
in a way took away from anything, but like I was like laughing. like every character made me laugh at some point.
Yeah, I was tense. I was laughing. It was great. Yeah.
So you guys I know you guys had said that you have never seen this movie, right? But did you know about this movie? Like, did you know the twists, the characters?
That's a good question. Like, what did we pick up through pop culture osmosis over the years?
I mean, so I told Peter afterward, I was like, going in, I thought Matthew Lillard was the killer. Again, like I said, like based on like just what I've absorbed over the years of pop culture, I was like, I think he's the killer because obviously he looks like he would be. Yeah. And he's not in the sequels, so like I'm assuming he's dead somewhere.
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
Well, because I've seen posters, like I don't see him anywhere.
Yeah.
He's not in the new movie. You'd bring Matthew Lillard in the new film if he was able to be.
There's rumors that
really
that
he might be back,
yeah,
but then I heard the name Loomis and I was like, wait, I've heard that name before. Maybe that's the character from Halloween. So I was like, I don't know anymore. It might be one of them, and it turned out both of them, but but really I didn't really know any of the twists and turns. And I've seen parody as like the opening Drew Barrymore scene. I guess probably one of the most iconic parts of the film, even though it is almost the least important.
Right. I think it's I'm sorry, Peter.
No, I was just gonna say I'm definitely aware of like the whole concept of like Ghostface calling you and being somewhere and you can't see him.
The rules.
I've seen the rules scene that Randy tells everyone, and I've seen like clips of the Tatum like I want to be in the sequel. I've seen that clip.
Did not know Henry Winkler was in the movie.
I did not know Henry Winkler was in the movie.
Hey, Henry Winkler!
Like, hey!
He was great.
I loved his part.
He was really good.
He was great.
We were like,
mean principal.
Better not kill off Henry Winkler. And they did.
Sadly, they do. Yeah.
It was a great death.
It was great. It was a great scene.
In Scream 4, I know you guys haven't seen Scream 4, but there's a bust in the school dedicated to Henry Winkler's character.
That's awesome.
So technically, he comes back.
That's funny.
I love that. Yeah. Good.
And
I didn't know much. And I did think Matthew Lillard had something to do with it, but even watching the movie, I was like, I can't figure this out. How is this happening?
It is kind of confusing. There's parts of the movie that I completely like sometimes forget that are in the movie. Like the whole subplot about Sydney's mom is a thing that can get sort of confusing.
Sure.
Right.
I feel like I do need to rewatch the film and sort of, now that I know who done it, to try like better figure out what's going on behind the scenes.
And when you rewatch it, it makes it really clear, or like it changes the dynamic, like where you see Matthew Lillard's character and Billy Loomis. When you see some of their lines, like it's very, I don't know what's the word, like you can tell that there's something else, like there's like layers, like
sure
on the surface, and then underneath is like the killer
in between the lines and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they joke about it all the time. I'm sure the characters, like they probably enjoy dancing so close to the line of saying, yeah, we did it,
especially Matthew Lillard, because he's a more irresponsible character.
Yeah.
He's basically the sidekick to Billy Loomis, right?
Yeah.
So guys, Drew Barrymore's in this movie. Did you guys expect her to have a big role, or were you surprised at all of how early she?
I was aware that's another thing I was aware of, that there was a well-established actor at the beginning who gets offed, and I actually couldn't remember who it was. But watching it, I knew that she was just going to have this small part, which is very cool. From what I did some research, she was supposed to be Sydney originally.
Yeah, she was supposed to play Sydney.
And then, she ultimately wasn't able to. But that ended up being a really great idea. I can imagine going to see this movie in '96 and like watching Drew Barrymore and then being shocked.
She's like in the poster. She's like on the foreground
of
one of the posters.
Yeah.
So for I know that audiences like around 1996 expecting like, oh, Drew Barrymore's in this movie. Yeah, let's go. And then to have her killed off. It's pretty much a reference to Psycho, Marion Crane dying in that movie, dying like midway through that movie, and then just shifting the perspective. It's very much a reference to that.
Very Psycho.
I loved that whole opening sequence because like it took us time. Like it wasn't like a 5 minute, like it was like a 10-minute scene or something. And I mean, like I was trying to watch the movie, but I also was like being like, oh, isn't that so cool? Or look at that, because like I just love the different things. And again, like it was kind of funny because like she picks up the phone, talks to the guy for the first time, hangs it up, then she picks it up again, and like he starts talking, and immediately the camera like turns. It's like not subtle, like boom, like we're at an angle now.
We're in a horror movie now, baby.
Yeah, and like stuff like that. I love the stuff with like the Jiffy Pop, like the smoke.
Oh yeah.
Like filling the room, almost like a like fog or something.
A lot of really cool touches. Yeah.
Yeah, just but yeah, and then like we see like the first kid, mangled, and then eventually her later. Yeah, just a great sequence.
A lot of great just those call and response things too, because I mean, just moments earlier she said the character's always running up the stairs when she should be running out the front door, and then she finds Ghostface at the front door and she has to run up the stairs. So already there's this playing inside. So I mean, everything's like set up really well right from the beginning. It gives you a great idea of what the film's going to be.
I also said at the beginning of the scene, when Ghostface asks her the questions like, who's the
killer in
Halloween, and then who's the killer in Friday the 13th. I was like, is this film about like gatekeeping? Like, is Ghostface the ultimate gatekeeper? And in some ways the film sort of is, because like it's about like this power you receive from knowing things about something in pop culture more than somebody else.
Right. Like, the movie's basically saying if you don't know these rules, you will die.
Yeah, I mean, that was like a part. I mean, it was a small part of it. I'm sure it wasn't like the main idea, but like it was there.
But
like,
I think by doing that, this makes the movie like more accessible, right? Like instead of this movie being sort of gatekeepy, like you have to know about horror to watch it. I think it's a good entry point because it teaches you about other horror movies.
Yeah, all these tropes and stuff
in the genre and stuff. Yeah.
I gotta say, for someone who doesn't watch a lot of horror, I would have got that question right. I was like, Drew, come on.
Yeah. Supposedly, it was she watches horror movies all the time. Supposedly, she saw that movie 20 goddamn times.
You say you're a fan, but you don't even know who.
Yeah, she doesn't
fake fan.
Fake fan.
And I like the commentary in this movie about the horror genre, but in the sequels it gets even crazier. Like the second one, Scream 2, talks specifically about what happens in sequels. So they reference like sequels that are better than the original. So like Empire Strikes Back, Aliens. That's what they say in the movie. I don't know if you guys agree with those being better, but that's something they talk about. Sure. And then in the third one, they talk about trilogies. How the third one always does something with the first one. I don't know. I don't like Scream 3. If you guys,
I hear that one's contentious, but I want to see them all now. I mean, I'm definitely game to see them all.
Yeah,
I hear the fourth one plays with like reboots.
Yeah, the fourth one, it came out like 2011, 2010, around that time. So horror movie remakes were pretty popular. I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street remake came out 2010, I think. Friday the 13th, 2009. So the movie does play around with that. And this new one, it's also coming out at a time where there's things I call requels, which are like reboot sequels, where they it's really interesting. Like they just
because even like just being called Scream, just like the new Halloween movie series, just called Halloween, even though it's a continuation, just has the same name. So even that from the title, I can see they're already playing with that.
So
like the thing I keep wondering is like, there was such a fun to this movie that like I feel like I don't know, it's harder to do nowadays. People want things to take it real. You either take things seriously or you make fun of all your past stuff.
Right.
Like, I can't believe we used to talk like that or dress like that or thought like, you know what I mean? So like, I hope this new film like still keeps that funness that the other movie had.
I hope so. The team behind it is a team, I think it's called Radio Silence or something along those lines. It's this pair of directors. But they did a movie called Ready or Not, which I think it's pretty fun. It kind of, you know, twists and turns, but it's really fun. It's a really fun.
It looked
movie.
interesting. Yeah,
So,
it looked good.
I'm excited for this new one coming out. I mean, I've seen all the other ones. I'm a big horror movie guy, so I'm just excited because horror movies are coming back now, bigger, better than ever. Well, I don't know, not better than ever, but they're coming back.
Big, yeah, back in the mainstream.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of sad to have this one without Wes Craven, the first one, the series without Wes Craven.
That's why I know, like, as soon as like Scream 4 came out, there was like talks about Scream 5, but then unfortunately Wes Craven passed and they sort of left it in like production. You know, they didn't want to do anything without him, and I know a lot of the cast didn't want to either. Like Nev Campbell for this new one, she did not want to come back until she talked to the directors and she read the script and stuff, and supposedly it does justice to Wes Craven. So.
That's good. Yeah, mentioning Wes Craven, I was like looking up a clip of Henry Winkler talking about like shooting his death scene, and he said like it took like 2 hours to film it just to get like certain things right, particularly like the shot like of the eyeball.
Of the eyeball,
cool.
yeah.
That was so cool. But he described Wes Craven as like an English professor, very professorial, very like, you know, which like made us, we thought about like kind of Sam Raimi as well, like
very quiet.
Yeah, this like kind of quiet, subdued, which I think you wouldn't think of from a horror director. I think most people would like imagine a horror director as like crazy and wild-eyed, like, you know, whatever. But like, you know, they might create all that stuff, but like they're still just a guy.
Yeah, apparently he was thinking about shifting away from horror around the time that he got the script to Scream, you know, and that's what he was like, oh, okay, well, this is different. This is fresh.
Yeah.
I guess I can do this.
I think I remember seeing that he read the script and then he was like, okay, I'm on board now. Like, I like horror movies again.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's fascinating that managed to sort of bring him back in too.
Yeah. And I guess this sort of did that mentality for like audiences as well, right? Like this movie started a whole genre of like teen self-aware 90s slasher movies, like I Know What You Did Last Summer and stuff like that. So it's funny that you guys mentioned Sam Raimi because he started out doing horror also before doing Spider-Man. Have you guys seen any of the Evil Dead movies?
Oh yeah, well, yeah, all the Sam Raimi Evil Dead movies.
Right,
which are great. Yeah.
Which one was your favorite out of the...
My favorite is Evil Dead 2.
Okay,
I think
cool.
Similar to Scream, you know, I think it does such a great job of balancing horror and comedy.
Yeah, it's really funny.
Razor's edge. So
it's kind of controversial, but I kind of really like Army of Darkness just because
is that controversial?
I don't know. I've seen lots of people say that it's not like horror enough compared to like Evil Dead 2. I mean, it still has
true.
Blood,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's as like vicious as Evil Dead 2, and I don't think Evil Dead 2 is as vicious as Evil Dead 1, but like, you know, of the Evil Dead movies, I just think it's fun. Like it's so much fun. It's probably the most fun.
Right? Just time traveling Bruce Campbell with a chainsaw arm.
Come on.
I know. We just
look at that sentence.
Like that.
Yeah, it's a really fun movie. It's the funniest of them too.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you got all those little Ash Bruce Campbell's just like beating the crap out of big Bruce Campbell. It's so good. It's
wild.
It's so cheesy. That's the only Evil Dead movie I have on Blu-ray. Actually, that's the only one I own.
Yeah. Well, I saw Sam Raimi was one of the people they approached to direct this movie too. They approached like George Romero, a couple different people, and like no one had quite the right angle they were looking for until Wes Craven.
Yeah, and I think as much as I would have liked to see Sam Raimi, you know, tackle this, I think Wes Craven did a really good job. Yeah. I think if anybody else would have done it, I don't think it would have come out as good or like as the way they intended, you know?
Yeah, I think his DNA is so thoroughly in it as someone who's not super familiar with Wes Craven's work at
right.
all.
What was the one line? She was like, "Let's watch a what'd she say?
Wes Carpenter.
A Wes Carpenter movie."
Oh yeah. Which I never noticed that until yesterday. Or when I rewatched it, she said Wes Carpenter. I was like, wait, she just doesn't know like the names of the guys.
Yeah.
She doesn't know.
And again, it goes to the idea of like you can like things, doesn't mean you have to know everything about it.
No,
like
that's something that I like about the horror genre is that they have so much subgenres that you can like jump into. Basically, like if you're not a fan of this, you can probably like something else that you're into. Like
even like if I can interject, like Frankenstein, like James Whale's Frankenstein, we see that referenced in this movie as well, like some very classic horror.
Yeah, which I thought was interesting. I was like, did kids in the 90s really just go to a house party and watch black and white movies? Like,
I don't know, man. Like thinking about it, like if I was invited to that party, I would be one of those guys watching the movies, you know, like just having fun, like pointing out.
You'd be the guy giving the speech. You'd be giving the speech about horror movies.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like I would be a Randy if you know, if that scenario did happen, I would be Randy. I would be like, yeah, this is what you got to do. Especially like, I think I would do a pretty good job of saying what to do in the subgenres as well. Like if it's a ghost horror movie, if it's like a werewolf horror movie, whatever, you know, I feel like I'd be the guy that's like, hey, this is what you got to do. This is what you got to do.
Yeah. But no, I was kind of like surprised by, like, I knew the film dealt with, you know, the horror genre, and they were, you know, aware of movies. I mean, it's into the film description on Amazon, and you know, but like almost like every scene they name dropped at least like one or two horror films. Like every moment there was a chance for it. Oh, it's like in this movie, or it's like that character. Oh, the pig's blood like this in this movie, or like you know, every I'm like the bad seed, like
there's a lot of
everywhere.
References.
And then even to the point of like, you know, we even get to the point of the film where like they're watching a movie, and talking about it as the ghost face is coming up behind him, and then in the van they're watching that happen as he's watching a movie,
and then we're watching all of it.
We're watching it.
But something about that scene is really cool. The actor's name is Jamie Kennedy, right? So he's talking to Jamie Lee Curtis, and he's saying, "Turn around, Jamie. Turn around. Come on, Jamie. Turn around."
I didn't even. Wow.
But he's not turning around. He's, you know, that's another thing right there, guys.
I mean, all those little moments of like, up and here's the obligatory brush shot, and then we cut to like the bedroom upstairs.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But you know, Wes like, nope, not this time, and like moves the camera a bit.
That's the one thing about this movie. It's a horror movie. It's rated R, but it's very subdued. It's not. The biggest gore that we see is like at the beginning, and then the rest of the movie, it's like very minimal.
Just blood.
Yeah, just blood, like stabs and shootings, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still just as tense, especially because of the beginning. But yeah, I had read that was one of the things that Wes Craven was feeling like kind of burned out with at that point in the 90s, like the misogyny and the like overzealousness of the violence.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's still very prevalent now, but it's far less. Like I know people now, they watch horror movies because they want to see that gore. Right. And that's something I like too. Like I love like a good kill every now and then, but I really appreciate Scream for like just trying to, you know, throw that angle on it. Like, you know, like I said, like it feels like a true crime thing. This feels like we're watching a dramatized retelling of like something that happened in a small town. That's why I like this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I liked, you know, the film. Like with any film, I would hope that it's more than just about what's happening on screen. But here it's very clear that like, you know, there is this whole theme of like pop culture and the media and, you know, the good or bad side of it. And the film kind of came down to like, you know, well, it depends on how you use it. You know, like the media or the movies or the news aren't inherently bad, but it's how you use it. You know, like I was kind of surprised when Gale Weathers ended up being more of a heroic figure by the end.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
at the beginning, she starts out really. I don't know any words, but she starts out really negative,
kind of villainous. I mean, she feels like a villain. Like, you know, like she's our antagonist, other than Ghostface. But then by the end,
throughout at the end of the movie, she becomes basically the third main character.
Yeah.
And in the later movies, she's still the third main character.
Yeah. So like I knew she was in the new movie, and I just assumed going into this movie that she was gonna be part of just like the teen group. You know, I just assumed if she's in the new movie, let's be part of that. And so I was surprised. I was like, I thought Courtney Cox was in this. And then all of a sudden we get this news person. I'm like, oh, that's Courtney Cox. Wait, what? Like there's this whole other plot going on. But yeah, so that idea of like, even at the end, when Matthew Lillard's character is like, you know, horror movies don't make, like, you know, movies don't make killers, they just make us more creative or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, again, like this idea of like, it's whatever you do with the media. The media isn't,
because I think for a long time too, there's been sort of the idea of like, you know,
that stigma, right? That like,
yeah, reality versus fiction. Like, you think horror movies are bad, just watch the 6 o'clock news, you know, that sort of thing. And then also another layer too is like profiting off of people's pain, you know, both in films, you know, like you're going to see a film to see people get hurt, so that's sort of on you. And then also like in real life, you know, maybe you could extend that to like true crime nowadays, or you know, she's writing a book on this event and everything, or just the news itself, you know, people tune in to see all the horrible things that happen. So there's just, in the movie, like, doesn't really come down, I don't know if it really picks a side, you know, but it sort of says there's some things maybe you want to think about, maybe you want to look at yourself with.
Yeah, maybe. I do know there's like a scene where there's party goers and then they hear that Henry Winkler's body is on like up on the football field, and they all run to go see it.
Right.
So it's like the same thing that you were talking about, just people, you know, making light of like a tragic situation and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, good point.
I mean, it's like, hey, there's a murderer, so no school today.
Yeah, let's party.
Yeah.
Hey, our dead principal's up on the football field. Let's go. Let's
and then also like, again, the media thing then goes into so like the generational divide. Like Henry Winkler, when he's talking to the two students in the office, he's like, you know, you terrible whorish generation, you know, just like, you know, and then even the police officer,
when
he
expels them,
he like, I must smell you too. And even then the police officer, like at one point, like the one guy asks him, like, do you think a kid could have done this? Like, well, 20 years ago, I wouldn't have thought so. But nowadays, you know, again,
these days.
Yeah, this idea that like, oh, because of, and then blaming it on the media, blaming it on the movies, blaming it on that, you know, and not parents or family, which is another big part of this movie.
Which is basically the motivation behind the killer, really. I mean, Billy Loomis's, his mom, or no, his dad ends up cheating on Billy's mom with Sydney's mom, right?
Right, and then so his mom left.
His mom leaves, and then Billy decides to get revenge on Sydney's mom, and frames it on Liev Schreiber, who I don't know if you guys ever see it.
It wasn't until like I think the credits or something where we're like,
wait, what? Yeah, he's he literally there for like seconds.
He was literal seconds, and then never again.
He was in the credits with a picture, and Henry Winkler wasn't.
yeah, Henry Winkler was uncredited. But Liev Schreiber was.
So he actually comes out in the second and third ones. He has
I saw that on Wikipedia. Yeah,
he has a bigger role in the second one.
Interesting
compared to the third one. Which spoilers? Oh, do you guys mind spoilers for the third one or no?
I do a little bit because I'm kind of invested now.
So I don't want to say anything then. But
yeah, you can tell us the next time we're on to talk about Scream 3.
I'll talk about something else. So what we said before about, you know, the media, as this franchise goes on, there are movie adaptations based on Gail Weathers' book.
Right.
So it further adds to the commentary on both, you know, the movie making side and the thing that we were talking about before, right? So there's like that sort of disconnect between the media and the reality by making this into a movie, and then making like 8 more movies that have nothing to do with like the original one. You know what I mean? Like, so in Scream 3, they're filming like Stab 2, which I think is that's the name of the franchise. But then in Scream 4, there's up to like Stab 7. So
yeah, I mean, we know that all too well. I mean, and that's nothing nothing new. I mean, like, you
That's
know,
the thing, yeah.
like people make like talk about all the time to talk about a lot now, like, oh, Hollywood has no new ideas and this
Right.
and that.
Everything's either a reboot, a sequel,
I mean,
or an
every
adaptation of something
every
else.
New Year, every New Year's, TCM plays the Thin Man movies. There's 6 movies of the series from like 1937 to 1940 something. There's 6 of them.
Mhm.
You know, the
same
Thin-
actors
yeah,
and
the
everything.
Same,
Yeah.
I mean, the same series. You know, like there's 6 of them.
Yeah.
The Thin Man is the name of the case, not the main character, but the case he works on. But all the other films are titled After the Thin Man, Return of the Thin Man, Son of the Thin Man.
Sounds like
Thin
trying
Man.
really hard to justify the name of this series, you know, with all these different stories.
Well, like, so we're
so
not,
that's in like that's the 30s and 40s already.
Yeah.
You know?
That's like the Universal horror movies also. I mean, there's Son of Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Bride of the Black Lagoon, stuff like that. Like,
yes,
Yeah,
it's
good
nothing
point.
new. I mean, like you
Yeah.
can, like, I think it's fair to point it out when people are exploiting it and it's not done
Right,
well.
for sure,
And and like you can watch this and go, oh, they made that just for profit. Or I'm sure there were some people involved who cared
who were
about it.
passionate, yeah.
But in the end, it was made by a production company for the name, for the profit.
Right.
So that's a fair criticism.
Like it's different when, you know, it's like a legacy movie, like decades into like a franchise, right? So similar to like the new Scream, but it's also different because you can say that, oh, it's just a cash grab, so that new audience, like, so that nostalgic people can be like watching the movie, get the studio could get money and stuff like that, right?
It's always that balance,
Mhm.
art and commerce. You know,
So,
it's just
now that we're talking about that, what are some movie reboots or like franchises that you think got good sequels way after their prime?
Well, I mean, the first like reboot sequel thing that comes to mind is Star Wars. You know, which I think
Solo. Perfect.
I love Solo.
I love.
Do you?
Solo,
Yeah.
Solo's fun. I was sort of being
yeah.
facetious, but like
I
it's
think
fun. But
Solo's fun.
but like I don't think, other than the Rise of Skywalker, I think all of, and even that one, like I know had passion behind it,
Right.
but
I just think it just wasn't planned out.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
every single one, you know, like
But
cohesive.
I think 7 is a great start, really fun, new characters and our legacy characters. I think 8 is just so deep and gorgeous and thought out, and
Yeah,
the characters are so expansive.
I love 8.
You know,
I love 7 too. I always
Solo
hear
is
a bunch of
fun.
negative stuff about both of them, and I'm like,
Yeah.
just enjoy the product, you know, like.
Yeah, and then we'll see. I say that too, and then I watch 9, and I become one
Oh,
of those.
you know what?
people.
Yeah, yeah, you know what? Yeah, it
and
makes
then
sense.
I'm talking to myself like, just either enjoy it or don't complain about it, or like what like.
I've seen it 4 times. I'm really trying to like make my peace with
I'm
it.
trying.
But
I've only seen it once, so maybe I have to rewatch it. It's just that, you know, seeing it in theaters, I was like kind of like expecting something else, I guess.
Yeah.
And then when it finally happened, I was like kind of disappointed with the way
And I
it was
mean, like,
handled.
and like, that's a particular example, because I mean, like, that's the 9th film in a 40-year franchise,
Right,
so like
yeah.
you're gonna have a lot of difficulties with it.
Mhm.
But so overall, I think Star Wars, you know, and then talking about Solo and Rogue One, I think they've both been pretty good. I would
Yeah.
like to see more films now outside of like the main
Yeah.
Skywalker saga.
That's what I want to see. Like when Mandalorian came out, I was like super down for that.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing to do with the Skywalkers. And then season 2, we got Ahsoka and Luke, and I was like, oh, this is still cool, but I'm kind of like not
It's still
I didn't
cool.
need it. I didn't need
it
it.
felt like
Yeah.
they were like it felt like a season. We're getting off topic, but it felt like
Yeah,
it was a season all of like pilots for other shows.
right.
You know?
Yeah, and
But-
that's sort of leads into that conversation, right? About like everything's the sequel, an adaptation, or a spin-off of something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything has to be for something else. So
Mhm.
I'm trying to think like what other. I mean, like I said, that's the Creed. Okay,
Oh, Creed, yeah.
that's a good one, because
Yeah.
there's I think the 3rd one coming out this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think
so that's been a good one.
that reminds me of like Cobra Kai. It's very similar to like, you know,
Yeah.
legacy characters, different characters.
Yeah, and again, like that's definitely a series that I think comes from people wanting to tell a story.
Right.
You know, like I think Creed is Creed similar, where it's like the writer or director or creators or whatever, they come in, you know, because they have a particular story in mind that they want to tell, not you know, the company's going, oh, you know, it's been 30 years and the people are now older, let's make a new Creed movie, let's make a new Cobra Kai. You know, I mean, they already did the Karate Kid remake. And I guess it didn't do well enough in their eyes to warrant any further films. But Cobra Kai, seemed to be a good place to keep telling more stories with that series.
Just fans wanting to do, you know, what they like to see, you know, like they want to see a continuation of the Karate Kid. They did it themselves, so that's
obviously
cool.
Halloween.
Halloween too. Halloween.
We haven't seen it. How it feels appropriate for you to bring Halloween up here?
Okay, so Halloween 2018, I think it's really good. So I had like a sort of like birthday party, Halloween party hybrid in October. So we saw Halloween, John Carpenter, and then we saw Halloween 2018. Right.
That's pretty cool.
So we had a double feature and it was really cool. I mean, a lot of people didn't like the original one because it was old. Right. Which is, I guess, I mean, it's a fair criticism, right? Like it's not shot the way a modern movie is shot, but I think it's really good. It's a classic, you know, people call it a classic. Halloween 2018 though, like it's still really good. It does a lot with the requel, you know, thing that we were talking about before. So you don't have to see the other movies. It does a good job of just getting stuff from the original and just, you know, keep that plot going. And it's really cool. It's really well shot. Jamie Lee Curtis is really good in that movie too. Like she plays this like survivor's guilt, or not really survivor's guilt. She's just like a survivor in general, and she's like a
post-traumatic stress.
Yeah, and what's the word? The ones like she's kind of like a doomsday prepper in that movie. So she's just like prepared to take Michael down. Yeah. Because she is the final girl. Like, are you guys familiar with that term? Right. Yeah. So she is the first one basically. And in this movie, it's like, like it's just her, and it's like the generations of like her and her like family. And it's a really well-made movie. Like it's written by Danny McBride, which I didn't even know he wrote like that until like later. And I was expecting it to be like funnier. But it was really good. And then I didn't like the newer one that much.
That's kind of what I kept hearing too.
Interesting, because I read the Wikipedia thing on it just to be in the loop. And I found it to be pretty interesting. I don't know how it would be if I was a fan of the series. Right. But I was like, that's a really interesting angle to take it in, this whole mob mentality idea.
No, I guess it is different because I've seen pretty much all of them in the franchise, right? So I guess I have certain expectations compared to, you know, someone that's just joined, like that's just happened to see like the 2018 one and this new one that came out. Because I know that back when I was working, this movie had come out recently, right? And so some people had seen it. So we were having like a discussion, and like it was pretty mixed between people that liked it and people that didn't like it. So
interesting. Were there that many kills in the second Halloween film?
Wait, which second Halloween film?
I mean, like, what's it called? Halloween
Kills.
Is that what it's called? Halloween Kills?
Yeah, the recent one.
Because the final one's gonna be Halloween Ends, but Halloween Kills. Were there like a lot of kills in that? Because it seemed like that was definitely that definitely seemed to be lower on the tier of importance when I was reading what it was about on Wikipedia. I was reading through the plot.
There was a lot of kills in that movie. And I think that's the main issue maybe that I have with
I guess you would hope so. If it's in the title, I suppose you would hope that there would be a lot of kills. Yeah,
well, and for sure there's a lot of kills, and some of them are really awesome, like really good practical effects and like stunt work from the people, you know, playing the victims and Michael Myers, but it sort of loses some of the story in a way. Like,
interesting.
I think, you know, that's like the opposite of like what Scream and Wes Craven did, you know, like he didn't want the kills to outshine the story, the narrative, right? And I feel like in Halloween Kills sort of did the opposite, where if you're a horror movie fan that just likes watching gore, like
Mhm.
you're gonna have a good time. But if you're interested in like Michael Myers and like that story, it's kind of lackluster. And I think that's the main
Well, and that's
drawback.
sort of like one of the questions when it comes to making these reboots or things,
Right.
like who are you catering to?
Yeah, that's
and
really
like
hard.
what side of, because like if you go rewatch Halloween, it's
Mhm.
not going to be like the new Halloween.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
it's so like if you go in wanting the original one, you're not going to get it. You get something which made me think of, you're talking about Halloween. Most recently, Ghostbusters
Ghostbusters.
Afterlife, which I loved.
Mhm.
I
did
really
too.
enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. Yeah.
But I was reading some very scathing reviews for it. It was good, and I didn't know going in until like one of my friends was like, "Hey, did you enjoy it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did." Like, really? It was getting bad. I'm like, "What?" And I was reading these reviews, and they were like 1-star reviews, just like panning it and saying like it's bad. It's just regurgitated nostalgia. It has no heart. It's nothing about it is new or interesting. It's boring. It's not funny. And I was like, I don't know what movie you were watching. Like, I really.
Here's the thing, though. Sort of like maybe with you in the Halloween franchise, it didn't really feel like Ghostbusters 1 and 2. That's the thing.
It's a different movie.
So like I can.
So maybe that could be disappointing. I could definitely see that.
I get that. Like if you're going in wanting one thing and it's not that. I get
and that's what you're saying. Like, who's this for? Who are we making this for?
But then, like, you have to. So on one side, the creators have to decide, what do we want to do with this movie? Do we want to make one that is just like the original, which you're never going to do with any movie, because you don't have the same director or actors or same era.
Lightning in a bottle.
It's with any movie. But then also for the audience, if you see it and it's like, this is not that, you either have to accept it and be like, okay, well, it's not that. So, but like, what is it? As opposed to saying like, well, it's not these things, so it has to be bad.
Sort of have to meet it on its own terms, I guess.
Because I just couldn't believe just how scathing these reviews were. Because I mean, it had a lot of nostalgia and callbacks, but I really felt that all of it was in service to the characters and to the stories, let you know what was going on. It's hard to speak on it as someone who has seen the other films, but like, I think you can go into this movie having not seen the other Ghostbusters, and it tells you what you need to know. And it just feels like, there's a story behind this, like if you see something like Goonies or something, they're talking about what happened years ago or with our ancestors or this or that. There could be a movie where that happens, but you don't need that. They're talking about it here.
Right.
So I think that's another modern requel, that I think did really well. Yeah.
I thought, I mean, again, doing its own thing.
I wonder if those reviews had seen the older ones and if they were trying to compare them.
I think they were
the older ones.
I think they were. I think they were like, well, it's not as funny as the original. Well, no, it wasn't.
I mean,
it's true.
This one has like less Bill Murray. It has less everybody, so it's like, obviously it's not going to be as funny, but
also
it's still kind of funny,
It didn't bill itself as that.
Like, right. No, it was completely
I would
separate.
definitely be mad if the trailers like focused on Paul Rudd being a Bill Murray character and like it was all about the funny, goofy ghost stuff.
Right.
But even from the trailer, it really focused on
felt
family,
like this coming of age,
Midwest,
legacy, right?
This like coming of like it felt like an 80s coming of age movie with like this like young girl trying to find her place in the world, this awkward kid with the Ghostbusters, wallpaper behind her. And so I think that's one that did well, and I think clearly had again that care behind it going in. I mean, you had the son, the original director, Ivan Jason Reitman directing this, and the writers and the composers with the music and the sound effects, just like everything, like they really cared for it. That was really clear, and I think that shows in the film.
I will say though, I've noticed that it seems like all of these requels all basically like to cover generally the same sort of themes because of their place in the world. They all tend to deal with like legacy,
Right.
which is interesting
For the first movie.
I suppose.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, that's true.
you know, Star Wars did that, did that. I assume
Creed,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
Jurassic World. I
Yeah.
mean, they all
Uh,
deal with like in a meta sort of way their existence as a sequel so
Yeah.
many
Right.
years later.
then the second one can maybe get a little farther
a
and do
little
something
more
little new.
original, a little bit more intimate.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in some ways, you know, maybe a little bit in the Scream mold in some ways, where like we're not turning to the audience like Deadpool saying like you're back again, good to see you after 20 years, but like definitely like the makeup of the story
Right.
like is sort of hinging on the fact that it knows it's a sequel,
Mhm.
you know. And again, I just to take it back to Scream, like they dance so close to that line of like breaking the fourth wall a couple
Yeah.
times. Like it's not a movie, it's real life. It is a movie. You know, not in my movie.
That's
you
what
know?
I'm saying. Like it, like I'm like, how do you parody this? Like
Right, yeah.
it is like it was more of a black comedy and satire
Mm.
than I really thought going in. I mean,
I want to be in the sequel.
yeah, you know,
Please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface.
yeah, you know, Matthew Lillard's like, you can't kill me, I gotta be in the sequel. Or like talking about like who's gonna, like, you know, when they make a movie about the who's gonna play you, probably
yeah.
probably Tori Spelling, and then the next film Tori Spelling is playing her character.
Yeah,
in
we
the
get to
movie.
see that. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I mean, that's really cool. That whole interplay is very cool. Even the fact that Sydney like kills one of the ghost faces, like dropping like
TV.
a TV
Yeah.
with Laurie Strode during her like final girl revenge moment.
It's like,
was
hey, you
great.
like horror movies that much? Here you go.
That
yeah.
was great.
And then
He-
the other killer, Randy's like, watch out, Sid. This is when the killer comes back to life, supposedly. And then
Yeah.
Billy does the dumbest thing. He just goes, rap.
Yeah.
Right?
That
Yeah,
was
so fast, so like the editing was so
Well,
fast there.
not in my movie.
What was his plan? You know, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, it was frightening but also hilarious in the same
Mhm.
moment. It was great.
Yeah. Hard bounce.
have you guys seen Scary Movie?
No, I haven't.
Mm.
I haven't. But that's what we were saying. Like, how does Scary Movie? Obviously, it takes it into a much further direction. But it's almost like, how do you even approach this? Because like we're watching it, and like this is so self-referential. Like, what else could you do?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
do you like
Period.
Scary Movie? Like, do you
I'm
recommend
mean-
Scary Movie?
I wouldn't say I don't know, because it's hard. I mean, I watch it every now and then. I don't want to say it's like a cultural thing, but I think it sort of is a cultural thing because
Sure.
here where I live, like everybody just likes Scary Movie, or at least people my age and like Mexicans my age kind of like Scary Movie. So
Really?
yeah, it's like a
Is that
thing.
That's a thing? Okay.
I think it is, because like in middle school and high school, or like especially middle school, like when you talked about Scary Movie, like everyone quoted Scary Movie, you know, like there's
Was
yeah, the what's up, the stuff
yeah.
like that, you know. It was just funny. I don't know why it's like a thing. I don't know if it's actually a Mexican thing. I could get I don't know if it is, but I feel like it could be. Like
Maybe.
Scary Movie just reminds me of like watching it with some friends, eating a bunch of hot Cheetos. And I don't know. It's just it's a good time, but I don't think it's a good movie per se. Like I think,
Sure.
But it sounds like it accomplishes what it
Well,
sets
wants
out
to
to
do,
do though.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
like
I
what
guess,
else could you
but-
call a good movie then?
but
You know?
sometimes I think it's just it's like you said, like, you know, this movie kind of like almost winks at the audience. With Scary Movie, it's like it winks with both eyes. It just closes. You know, it like just closes its eyes sometimes.
Sure.
And
I mean, I've seen some clips, and it seemed like what I saw was
I
kind of funny. But like the one I remember seeing like on Facebook or something
Mhm.
was like the parody of the garage scene.
right.
And I was like watching this movie, I was like, this is already a parody.
Yeah.
Where she's like, you know, oh yeah, you're gonna kill me.
Please don't
He's
kill
like,
me, Mr. Go.
he's like shaking his head. He's like, oh no, like, oh, watch out, no ghost face, Casper.
Yeah.
No, you're gonna stab me with a knife. Oh, you know, like
It's like if I said, you know what, I want to make a parody of Scary Movie, you know, which I guess you could do.
you could.
You know, originally Scream was supposed to be called
I
Scary
did
Movie.
see that.
Yeah.
I did see
And I
that.
think that would have been such a cooler title. Then Scream.
We
I think,
talked about that a little
I
bit.
noticed how much they said the phrase "scary
Scary
movie"
Yeah.
throughout the movie.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think giving it like that kind of stock name would have been just the icing on the cake.
yeah, but then it's like, what would you call scary movie? You know, like if the Wayans brothers made that movie in this universe where this
probably would have been Scream.
oh, you know, maybe.
We call it Scream.
Yeah, Stab. Yeah.
Or you know what? I think scarier movie was
Scary. You know
That's
what?
true.
That's a
It
good
probably
point.
was a scarier movie.
And scary movie, like it parodies a bunch of other horror movies as well. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I Know What You Did Last Summer because it came out around the same time, written by the same person that wrote Scream, actually, Kevin Williamson. So scary movie, like it's funny, but sometimes it does too many like random like things in there. Like
Sure.
in that garage scene, there's like a cat that goes out the door, and then there's like a horse that goes out that door too. So you just gotta be in the right mindset, I guess.
Yeah,
to enjoy it, you know.
Yeah.
And at the end of that movie, there's, I forget his name. Is it Sean Wayans? I think, not Marlon Wayans. I don't know if you guys are familiar.
I'm not sure.
But the other Wayans brother, he directly mentions Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. He's like, did Scream make any sense? Do people actually think they know what happens in I Know What You Did Last Summer? And that's like his whole motivation, basically. That like
Interesting.
I actually don't remember the motivation. I just know that that's what something.
Well,
that he said.
the motivation doesn't matter. It's scarier when there's no motivation.
Right. That's what Billy Loomis.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then he gives the motivation.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Apparently, they were split on like the studio was split on like should we give one, shouldn't we? And so they kind of split it. Like Billy has a motivation, and then
Stu doesn't have.
Stu doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although even then,
he's kind of doing it for. I mean, he kills his ex-girlfriend at the beginning.
right? I was gonna say like he kills his ex-girlfriend, and
he
then
says peer pressure. He says a famous line, peer pressure.
Yeah.
right, and then Billy is going after his girlfriend. So like already I can see that there's something that makes sense there to begin with.
I know.
But even then, like saying like my mother, you know, like I don't know, like so they both sort of do have a motivation,
right? I think out of the two killers, who do you think is cooler, or who did you like seeing on screen more, Billy or Stu?
I mean, Stu was just hilarious.
Stu is pretty hilarious.
I mean, and like, but I think they were both equally scary because I think Billy had like just the very like serious like. I was sort of thinking like Heath Ledger Joker a little bit, and just this guy stirring in the eyes and stuff.
His hair, it's like the same.
Yeah.
Have you seen this?
Yeah. I was probably more scared about Billy,
but
once things were revealed.
But Stu's
like such a wild card.
Jack Nicholson Joker.
Yeah.
You know, the over the top, flamboyant, everywhere, jump on everybody.
He's really just doing it because it's fun, basically. Like that's what he says, kind of.
Like
my parents are gonna be so mad.
Oh, that whole scene where he's like dying. He says like, "I think I'm dying, man." But like he's like, "Did you really call the cops?" Yeah. Oh, my parents gonna be so mad.
I love that scene. Billy throws a phone at him also in that scene, and it hits him.
A phone at me.
That was ad-libbed by him. That line.
Really?
Yeah. Because it wasn't supposed to hit his head. It just happened to hit his head, and he was like, "You threw the phone. You hit me with the phone, dick." Like that was just all.
That's really great.
It was great.
That's
oh
really
my gosh,
great.
It was great.
They were both
again,
so good
like,
at it.
but like still like, because again, the film takes everything seriously. The death, the gore. You know, none of that is played for laughs.
It definitely elevates the humor. Then,
yeah, you can still have fun with it. I mean, like I thought Henry Winkler's death, like like his like face and scream is just like so over the top.
well, the fact that he jump scares himself twice in the mirror.
Oh my gosh. That whole sequence was hilarious.
I mean, heck, not to mention, you know, he goes out and sees Wes Craven.
He basically sees Freddy Krueger,
dressed as Freddy Krueger. Not you, Fred. Sorry.
So I mean,
it's so
that
good.
was so wild.
Like I said, and so like, just I respect that balance so much of just how funny it was while still being genuinely scary and especially suspenseful. Like you said, like the beginning scene was definitely the goriest, and then we had like, you know, the Henry Winkler death in the middle, and then nothing else till really the end.
As things came into focus with the two killers in the end, it kind of reminded me of another Alfred Hitchcock movie, Rope, which is one that's not like directly mentioned here, but that's also a movie about like two young guys who are like, you know what, I think we should just try to kill somebody and like see if we can hide it.
Yeah.
You know, if you've ever seen that movie, it's another great suspenseful movie. But they're like, let's kill a guy, hide his body like under the table, invite a lot of people over to dinner, and just kind of see what happens.
Oh yeah.
And it gave me like those sort of vibes of like, you know what? We like scary movies.
Let's just kill people.
Yeah, let's just kill people. Like, and basically like make our own movie, like play it out like you would see. And just basically because we're two guys that are looking for something to get our kicks some way.
Yeah.
And it kind of brought that into mind too. And which was just such a really frightening idea. I mean, they're right. It is scary. Yeah. We don't like really have a motivation. You just are kind of that twisted and you're like, let's just kill people.
Yeah.
I mean,
because how do you predict that?
He quotes, Billy Loomis quotes,
Norman Bates,
Anthony Perkins, Norman Bates. I forgot his name.
We all go a little mad sometimes. Yeah. And then and what was hilarious again, then he says it from the movie. He didn't just quote it. He then like tells us where that quote is from.
Yeah,
which you know again like furthers that.
In case you didn't know, audience answered.
Yeah. I know horror films.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of surprised the movie never like made a link between Janet Leigh in Psycho and like her daughter Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween, because the movie references Psycho and Halloween. I'm just surprised they didn't ever actually like call out that like lineage of horror.
This is random, but in one of the Halloween movies, Jamie Lee Curtis comes back, and then Janet Leigh plays like she doesn't play her mom, but it's they're still doing like a scene together, and it's kind of like a sweet interaction between both of them.
No, that's really cool.
Between mom and daughter.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, I don't know what else to say with it. I mean, I thought it was a fun, exciting movie. It gave me everything I wanted, really, and everything that I like. It's the kind of horror film that I would enjoy, because I mean, you enjoyed the slasher and the gore, and that hasn't.
Right.
Granted, I haven't watched many, so I can't. Maybe I would enjoy it. I don't know.
I enjoy pretty much like everything. You know, I think it's just fun to like pop in a movie here and there.
Yeah.
Like me and my girlfriend, we watch horror movies all the time.
Sure.
Not necessarily good ones. I try to find good ones, but it's kind of hard when you've seen pretty much, all of them, right? Yeah. So
I have to say too, I feel like we maybe haven't necessarily, we talked a lot about a lot of things here, but I don't know if we have necessarily given Sydney her due either.
Oh, Sydney's great.
Just a great character.
I love Sydney.
Yeah, no, I was honestly kind of like, I was watching it, I was like, I hope they stick the landing with everything in this movie, because like there's when you set up to be like the subversion of things and trying to do things the right way and trying to portray like the female lead character in a horror film the right way, I was like, are we gonna stick the landing? Because some films like try to do that and then fall into the same tropes anyway, and like they don't actually have what they're trying to do. This film did.
Yeah, I don't 100% know why she decided to take the time to put on the Ghostface outfit before she made her big attack, but I'm glad she did, because that was extremely awesome. That was very cool.
I think Sydney's like definitely one of my favorite final girls when it comes to horror movies, especially if you guys see the sequels. Like in Scream 4, like she's used to it. She's done it for 3 movies. She's like, okay, this is happening again. I got to step up. She knows all the rules. She knows what to do. She's very much like Jamie Lee Curtis in the Halloween 2018, but not as doomsday preppy. Like she's very subdued, but she still knows her way around a horror movie.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that she actually had a lot of like inner life and inner turmoil to deal with already. Her post-traumatic stress like is a huge part of the movie and of her character, and this whole thing hanging over her head of like, did I pick the wrong man?
I think it's kind of messed up that Billy just basically wants to go all the way with her, and he's
pretty messed up.
He's basically like, Sadie, come on, it's been a year since your mom died. But I mean, guilt doesn't work that way, like it's different for everybody. You're not gonna get over
that. Should have been a good tip off right then, but for us, the audience, but it wasn't. I was like,
but this movie, it does different things. Like Billy gets put in prison, right? But then Sydney gets a call from Ghostface.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, so it's not Billy.
Right.
And you just keep twisting and turning, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I love the idea that like anybody could get this costume and mask. So like,
That was so cool.
you know,
Yeah, the fact that like there's kids
It's
running
at a
around.
Halloween store. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
makes it even scarier. Like it's not
Brilliant.
like one person; it could be anybody.
Right.
So then, the Ghostface shows up to Tatum, and it's like, yeah, you don't know, you know. I know because I read the IMDb page on all the scary things that are going to happen. Because before I watched it, I was like, I want to know what I was getting into, and I remember reading, I was like, wow, that sounds violent but creative. So
and this movie, like I said, like when you rewatch it, you pick up on a lot of stuff
Sure.
here and
I
there.
feel like this movie is going to have a lot of rewatch value. Yeah.
Excuse me. I try to rewatch it like around every October. You know, there's certain horror movies I rewatch just to get in the mood.
Sure.
And Scream for sure is one of them.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
I like the setting. It's not really autumn per se, but I just like rewatching it around that time.
Mhm.
And like I said, like if you rewatch it and you try to pick up on like knowing who the killer is, like their lines have different meanings, you know.
Sure.
Like at the beginning, Randy's like Stu says that he was with Tatum that night, right? And Randy's saying like Randy's asking him, was it before you sliced and diced
Right.
Drew Barrymore's character? And it makes you wonder like who was there that night? Was it Billy or was it Stu? Because Billy also goes to visit Sydney that night,
Right.
Mhm.
right? So it's like they're both trying to have an alibi, but who was the one that did the killing?
Yeah, it seems like like I said, they really enjoy sort of like dancing really close to the
Yeah.
edge. And also, yeah, I was like, even retroactive, sort of piecing it together, like, yeah, like he did sneak out that night. Like his parents like thought he was there, but we know he at least snuck out to get to Sydney's, and that's probably just his alibi. He probably dropped off there, then or before did all the other stuff.
Right.
So
I want to say like also if you rewatch it, the like Ghostface mannerism changes throughout the movie. So
Really?
sometimes he sort of like stumbles and like he's more goofy, he's more clumsy with the knife. So that's kind of giving you a hint that it's Stu. But
Yeah.
other times he's really precise and really cold and menacing. And that gives you more insight into that. It's Billy.
that's really cool. That's interesting. I will say, watching this movie, I kept getting the impression that like if this was like a Super Smash Brothers game, then Ghostface would like constantly be at 300%.
Yeah.
Like every kick he
gets-
took,
Mhm.
every like door he ran into, he just went off the ground every
Yeah.
time.
It's very funny. I don't know if it was intentionally made that way, but I guess it does add to the realism because you know like Jason, you can't kill Jason, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's very stoic, very unmovable. Same thing with Michael Myers.
That's what I was saying to Peter. I
Mhm.
liked how like human he felt.
Yeah.
Like
Right,
it felt like
for
there was
sure.
a guy there. I mean, like Sydney runs into her room and she closes the door the same way she kept her dad out of the room.
And he's like,
And he's
like
trying to get in. And so like it was funny, but also made it like let you know like this is a human. Like this is a
Right.
person trying
For
to
sure.
kill another person, not
It's-
a creature, not a monster.
It's still scary, but for completely different reasons.
In
Like,
some ways, it's scarier just
Right.
being
That-
a dude with a knife who, for some reason that you don't know, could be anywhere and wants to kill you.
Yeah.
And that's what I say all the time whenever I talk about this movie, that the way that it's more grounded makes it scarier because especially
Mhm.
like, you know, as like the possibility that it could be someone you know. And the tagline for this new one, it's always someone you know, right? And that's even scarier, that if this is haunting you like for years, for 25 years, it's always going to be somebody you know.
Mhm.
That's scary.
Brilliant.
So and if you guys rewatch this movie, you'll pick up on a lot more horror movie references
Sure.
if you've seen horror movies. Like
Sam Raimi got a shout out with
Yeah.
Evil Dead.
Yeah.
mhm.
Mhm.
There's, you know, Terror Train, a bunch of Jamie Lee Curtis's, you know,
Right.
like,
She was referenced a lot in this. Yeah, a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
reference for Jamie Lee Curtis in
a
this.
lot of people call her the Scream Queen,
Right.
right? What was I gonna say? I forgot. It was on too much. Oh yeah. So in Halloween, right? John Carpenter's Halloween, there's a scene where Don't Fear the Reaper plays. And in this movie, a cover of that song also plays when
Yeah.
when Sydney and Billy are in her room.
I did notice the song and I thought it was like, this is an interesting choice of a song. I mean,
Yeah.
like I get look for the Reaper, like kind of foreshadowy. But like it was like a nice cover, so it kind of like the mood kind of felt like fit the theme.
It's different, yeah.
But it's interesting that's like
it's
also
a reference
tie-in.
to
That's cool.
Halloween. Yeah, I didn't notice that until I saw it yesterday, or when I started watching it with JP like 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that point I had rewatched Halloween, right? So I was like, oh, that's a reference to this.
That's cool.
And it's just really cool to like be able to pick up on more stuff
with little things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got nothing else.
Well, okay.
So well done.
We've been recording for an hour. Okay, I just wanted to stall, trying to have more stuff to say, but because I thought we were low on time, but no, we're good. We've done an hour.
We said a lot.
I think we covered a lot of ground. I really enjoyed it. I've been meaning to see this for a long time, and when you finally said, "Would you like to come on and do the episode?" I was like, "Well, here's my opportunity." Finally sit down and watch it. I was glad I did.
I was super excited when you guys said that you weren't like that. You guys have never seen it before, or that you weren't that big on horror, because to me, like, I was like, that's crazy, but that's just because like I saw this movie when I was like 8 years old, right? I've been rewatching it since I was like,
I mean, I've always been aware of this movie. Like, every Halloween party I ever went to as a child, there was a ghost face there. Yeah. They had the ghost face with like the
blood.
Yeah, with like the heart that you could squeeze and the blood runs to his face. Yeah. But then just the normal ghost face and everything. You see him all the time. Like it's ubiquitous. I'm so aware of the costume, the existence of Scream, as well as the existence of Scary Movie, and like the whole concept of the rules. Like it is one of those things that's sort of in your DNA culturally, kind of like Star Wars, even if you haven't seen it. So it was good to finally get around to see it. And I was like, yeah, okay. I see why, for a quarter of a century, everyone's been loving this movie. Yeah. It makes sense.
It pretty much, when it came out, it changed the genre.
Rightly so.
And
yeah.
It did a good job, like every couple of years, the genre changes, the liking changes. Like, for a while, it was Saw and torture porn, that genre, which I'm not the biggest fan of. And then afterwards, it was like Paranormal Activity and like found footage ghost movies.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's just interesting to see the evolution of horror and stuff like that. So now that you guys have seen this, now you guys are, got to dip your toes into the horror genre. Is there anything else you guys want to see, like that people have talked about throughout the years?
No? I mean, I'm definitely interested in watching the next Scream film.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like at the very least, I want to watch 2, 3, and 4. Like I like this world, I like this character, like characters, like the commentary on movies and culture and stuff. So at least that.
Carrie Fisher comes out in the third one.
Really?
Yeah.
There we go.
And she does like, her scene is probably my favorite out of like Scream 3. Just because it's really self-aware. Like
I hear that Scary Movie 3 is pretty scathing in some ways.
It's kind of bad. I'm
curious. I hear it's very divisive.
But throughout the production, like it just got a bunch of rewrites and like reshoots, and no one really had the script finalized. So there's references to it in the movie itself. Like,
interesting.
Like the actors playing the actors in the movie are like, what is this, like the 4th reshoot this year or something like that?
That's really funny. Yeah.
I see this one was not
self-aware. 3 was not written by the guy that wrote 1, 2, and 4. I noticed Kevin Williamson. Yeah.
I mean, I'd definitely be interested in like, I kind of going back to like the classic films. Like I want to see Halloween, Friday the 13th.
I've seen some of the Nightmare on Elm Streets, and I've definitely enjoyed what I've seen. So I probably should, at some point, finish those off.
I think
there's a ton of movies on my list.
I would enjoy those more than more modern things. Because I think there is like that modern tendency to show everything.
Right.
And I like the figuring out what to show and what not to show.
Right.
That like how you can blend that, and how it's scarier sometimes when you don't show everything.
Right. That's subtlety, right?
Yeah, Sam Raimi talked about that in like some behind the scenes stuff for Evil Dead 2. It's one of the reasons I think that movie, I prefer it more over Evil Dead 1. Evil Dead 1, he just shows everything. Evil Dead 2, he says like, there's a balance. Some things you show them, and then there's some things that like are just going to be scarier when you allow the audience to fill in the scariest thing that they can imagine. You know, for each individual person, they get to sort of come up with their own thing. And if you do a healthy balance of showing stuff and not showing stuff, it can actually end up being scarier, is his thoughts on it.
I agree. And that's like very similar to the mentality that Steven Spielberg had with Jaws. I mean, and that's what I mean. I know that it was technical limitations. The shark kept breaking down because of the water, but it makes that movie scarier when you don't see it that much. I think if you see that shark too much, it detracts from it. Same thing why I like Alien, Ridley Scott's Alien that much. I kind of prefer it to Aliens.
Alien's good. Aliens is one I have to see. So you said things I got to get around to. Aliens is one I got to get around to. Aliens is good.
I like they're both like this, you know, like equal. But I kind of prefer Alien just because I like the idea of just like horror movie but in space, you know what I mean?
Alien is excellent. I got to see Alien in a theater experience, and it was
that's
great.
Awesome. That's awesome.
So but Aliens, that's another one I got to get around to. What do you think we need to get around to?
In terms of what? In terms of like horror movies?
So like, you know, because we finally got around to Scream, and you were asking what else should we see?
Well, I think since John was talking about like the show Don't Tell, or like the, you know, don't show too much. I think Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween, is a very good example of that. It makes you really feel like the atmosphere of the movie. It's a lot of stalking around, a lot of dark areas. It's not that gory, so if you guys aren't big on gore, like, don't worry about that. It's like super minimal. I'm trying to think of other stuff. If you're not big on gore, don't watch stuff like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or like Saw or any of that stuff. I
can't really see me watching Saw anytime soon.
Saw is only enjoyable because of like at certain points it gets like very soap opera-y, like very just convoluted story.
Sure.
And so it's like the fan base pretty much just likes that crazy storyline and like the gore, which I'm not a big fan of either. So I don't watch those movies often.
Sure.
I watch Friday the 13th every now and then. But my favorite's part 6. Okay, so it's very weird, very off topic, but part 6 actually reminds me a lot of Scream. It's very self-aware, has a bunch of jokes here and there, like a bunch of editing cuts. Like it's just a good time. Like it's a good.
Which one's 6?
6 is Jason Lives. So
okay,
it starts out like Frankenstein. Jason gets resurrected with lightning, and then he just goes on to terrorize people in the camp. And it sounds campy, no pun intended. But it is. But like it's such a I don't think it's a good, bright, like a good representation of like the franchise as a whole. But I think it's really fun.
It's fun. And that's what I would like.
Yeah, and like I don't want you guys to watch a boring horror movie. Like that's why I wouldn't recommend like the early installments in Friday the 13th, just because they're they feel the same. Like if you watch parts 1 through 3, they feel very similar to each other. And even though I like part 4, it's still very much that same formula, right? Sure. There's this movie called Final Girls, or the Final Girls or something like that.
I think I've seen that. Yeah, that was pretty good.
That one's also pretty good. It basically, you know, if you've seen Friday the 13th, you know what you're getting into. But it's, again, that commentary, very much the Scream, but also very different. You know, modern take on it.
Cabin in the Woods. That's another one I've been meaning to get around to.
Cabin in the Woods
a little more violent, but
it's a little bit more violent, but that one's really good.
But that's okay. I hear it's good.
I introduced that one to JP like a couple months back. He really enjoyed it, which I was surprised, because usually, I don't know, I feel like he wouldn't enjoy the things I recommend. But as far as that goes, I think those are some good solid picks right there. If you're not looking for anything too gory.
Yeah, I mean, like, since we've been doing our TikTok lives, like, I know in October, or every time we did one, people would say, what's your favorite horror movies? Have to go through our spiel, pull out our script of like, you know, we haven't seen many, we plan to see them, but there's so many films to see, and it's not our favorite genre, but we'll get to them at some point. So, like, this is even more of a catalyst. Like, now that I've kind of gotten that kind of taste, I'm like, you know, I would like to check out some more of them, like, get into that genre. And again, like, not having to watch all of them, I don't need to know I don't need to be like the Billy Loomis who knows every aspect of these
or the
movies.
Randy.
No, for sure.
Or the Randy.
That's why I like that there's like so many horror movies, because you can just kind of like pick and choose whatever you want to watch. I know
Ready or Not. That was another recent one that looked good. I haven't gotten around to yet.
Ready or Not is pretty good. There's this other movie called Mayhem, which stars Steven Yeun and Samara Weaving, who also comes out in Ready or Not. That one's pretty fun too. Like it kind of feels like a video game at times, but just like in an office setting. I don't remember it being that like gory or violent. I just remember being fun.
Sure.
That Black Phone, is that?
Oh, that one's
yeah.
Ethan Hawke.
The upcoming one looks good. Yeah, from
that
the
one
trailer.
looks good too.
Scott Derrickson. Yeah, so that's an upcoming one I might want to see.
Yeah.
Scott Derrickson, he did Sinister. That one was pretty good.
I didn't see that.
I remember
that one scared my friends quite a bit.
I haven't seen the second one. I saw the first one. That one I would recommend. I don't remember it being too violent. Or no, it's like violent, but in the sense that like you don't see the violence. You just kind of have to like piece the pieces together in your head.
Sure.
So that one I would recommend too. That one's really good, like ghost story type, suspenseful.
Sure.
Same thing with like I guess the Conjuring movies. They're pretty good. As like I think starting out with something. Later down the line, I would recommend The Thing by John Carpenter, just because that one.
Oh, sure.
That one's
that's a classic one.
That one I think is sick, but
yeah,
you gotta have the stomach for it.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
I've only seen The Thing from Another World so far, which is like the '60s black and white one that John Carpenter remade. But yeah, The Thing is on my list as well. Yeah,
and I would
a lot of things on my list.
I would say stay away from the 2011 The Thing. Just I like Mary Elizabeth Winstead, but
she's cool. Yeah.
The rest of the movie is like whatever.
Okay.
There's tons of like behind the scenes stuff where like they had really cool practical effects, but then in the movie they just covered up with CGI. So it looks less scary than it would have.
Interesting.
Sure.
Yeah. So there we go. Those are just some small recommendations here and there.
Yeah, awesome.
We're set.
Shaun of the Dead. That one's funny too.
That's another one we need to get to. Yeah, I haven't seen it. You haven't seen it?
There's so much to watch.
Good. And people don't consider Hot Fuzz a horror movie, but there is a sort of like hooded, mysterious killer going around. So I would say watch that one too. It's also really fun.
Sure.
And I guess that's pretty much it. I mean, the George Romero zombie ones. Yeah,
those are classics. I see those too. I've been sort of putting those off. I mean, I think the zombie movies are like kind of emotionally troubling for me. I mean, just like, well, like watching like a child eat her mother.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I get that.
So like it's hard for me to like.
Now that you put that image in my head, I don't.
The recreational stress that zombie movies give me, I'm like, I could probably live without that. But they are classics, and I do need to get around to them
especially sometime. George Romero's. He does a lot of social commentary.
Right.
Dawn of the Dead is pretty good. That's the main one. I think I prefer, just because Night of the Living Dead kind of really dated. I think it's still really good, but I just prefer Dawn of the Dead. And If you guys, there's also Return of the Living Dead. That one's a more recent than those last ones, but it's also really good. A lot of commentary, because it's like they know that zombies are real, So it's like that's the same mentality would Scream, that we live in a world where we know about horror movie monsters.
Yeah.
Cool.
There we go. I think that's about it. I think I spent way too much time talking about other horror movies instead of Scream.
Well, it's a celebration of horror and like self-referential horror and the genre.
That's part of the conversation.
I think it all makes sense. Yeah.
Cool.
For sure.
So before we, end this, what I feel like you guys should promote yourselves. What do you guys have going on? I know, Peter, you have a podcast as well.
I am something of a podcaster myself. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can find us on TikTok at Wojtechko Brothers, WOJTECHKO.bros. We make daily content about Marvel, Star Wars, Doctor Who, a bunch of nerdy stuff, making just funny content with that. And then Peter has a podcast he does with his friend Sean called So Much to Tell. We talk about the Raimi Spider-Man movies in great detail. They really dive in. Yes. I mean, the first episode's on Mary Jane, and then episode 2 and 3 are both on the Green Goblin. So just really getting, deep into the nitty gritty, talking about just all the, you
can find us on TikTok too. Some excerpts of our stuff at So Much to Tell, of course, all one word. And then on Twitter as well, at SMTT podcast.
And then wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Yeah, wherever
Spotify,
you listen to podcasts,
Apple,
you'll find
whatever.
So Much to Tell.
Nice. Nice. And so also before we go, what did you guys see No Way Home? I mean, yeah.
Oh. Did we
see No Way Home?
But did you guys like it?
Oh yeah. I've listened to the soundtrack nonstop.
Oh, nice.
Until I get to see it again. Yeah, it was great. It was great.
Very exciting experience. Very enjoyable experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I think
joyful, emotional.
Thinking of Scream. Scream. Yeah. That's the right thing.
Speaking of scary movie.
Yeah. But like, it works with the new properties while also connecting it to, a past, to the history. And I think it does it all really well. So if we want to include Spider-Man. That in our list of films like that, I think Spider-Man in particular is sort of like that.
Yeah,
because it's continuation of its own thing.
That's something I had heard too, that like I saw this meme where like they're basically, it was a person saying, why couldn't you have ended like that? And it was talking to episode 9 of Star Wars and in reference to this movie.
Yeah.
So it's like, why didn't you end a trilogy like that? I guess.
Yeah. But no, that was great for sure.
Yeah. Cool. I just want to get you guys like a quick opinion on it, because I know we haven't talked about it. Like we didn't talk about it before.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Great. Yeah. I mean, very Spider-Man-y. Sort of like Into the Spider-Verse is like when you get that many Spider-Man together, it's the movie obviously becomes sort of like a way of like sort of dissecting what Spider-Man is and what it means to be Spider-Man. That was just lovely to see. Yeah. Especially having like this generational thing, like the old man Peter who's come through the darkness, Andrew Garfield who's right in the middle struggling with it, and then really, the
guy Tom who's Holland, starting it out, basically.
Pretty much just starting out. Like this is of his movies. Yeah, he's had Tony Stark die, but like really this is his darkest time right now, and he's just beginning it. And so that's just really nice to see that whole story unfold. It's going to be really interesting to see where Tom Holland's Spider-Man goes from here. I'm really interested to see. I'm
really excited. Just fresh new start. Okay, last thing before we end off, where would you guys rank it in terms of like Spider-Man movies?
Seb, I don't like ranking Spider-Man movies.
I'm sorry.
I mean, it's pretty good.
It is good. I mean, the thing is, it's just hard for me to rank things.
I feel like sometimes it feels more like an event than like a movie. I don't think it's a very fair comparison at times.
Especially right now, like we've just seen it. I think it's easier to rank it like a year later.
Oh yeah, that's true. Actually, forget that question. That was a dumb question. Let's move on.
Well, it's not a dumb question. No. It's not a dumb question. It's just that, like, for me, like movies, like sometimes I want to sit down and want to watch a movie like Spider-Man 2. Sometimes I want something with a little more bombast and color, like Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Sometimes I want to see Jamie Foxx doing his thing in Amazing Spider-Man 2.
That's
they're all doing their own thing.
Yeah. So
I guess like we were talking about this earlier. Like I guess one day I might want to watch Scream, and another day I might just want to watch a scary movie. Turn my brain off a little bit, have a good time. Right?
Yeah, I would say it's a top tier Spider-Man film, and I would say.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to take too much time away. This has been Stay Till the Credits. My name is Sebastian. You can call me Seb, whatever. Guys,
this is John Wojtechko.
Peter Wojtechko.
Seb, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for being my co-hosts. Really appreciate it. Really saved my bacon there.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah.
Thank you so
much.
Sorry,
JP. We got the job.
Yeah.
It's been a good run, JP, but you're out.
Replaced.
The people have spoken.
Mm-hmm. All
All
right.
right, we'll see you. Thanks.